compared Snell versus Darvish. And funny enough, I heard through the grapevine that Darvish has to get hip manual therapy done to help open up his internal rotation. I can't tell you exactly the source of that, but I thought that was kind of interesting piece of context to kind of give you to kind of see what your thoughts are. But I think this would be a good description for some of the views, and I'll probably use this for maybe a social media post too on how these two are a little bit more on the opposite ends of that spectrum to kind of help conceptualize the aerial versus terrestrial movement motor preference, I should say. So
Yeah, so Snail is an aerial, that's for sure.
yeah,
And Darvish
aerial
is
on
a
the left.
terrestrial.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can see different things like if you watch Darvish, you will see that he's gonna kick his leg not that high because he doesn't need to bounce. So he's gonna kick his leg less higher than Snail. And also you can see the difference of knee flexion, back knee flexion, which is like terribly different.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's a different angle, but it has more flexion. Darvish has much more flexion.
well, I would say
And
too, the biggest thing would be this is just from my untrained eye and you guys, but like even just how their foot is being pushed too.
yeah, you can see that Snell is more on the toes, like he's more on the forefoot when Darvish is more on his heel side.
Yeah.
Because a terrestrial likes to have weight, like his center of gravity backward, when an aerial likes to have his center of gravity forward. So that's why there's a big difference there. Also, I can see some different details with arms and stuff like that, but it's going to be very deep. But you can see also, look at the front foot. Look at Darvish. What is it showing? It's showing his heel. When Snell is more flat. So you have some different little cue that makes you, okay, we have two different picture styles.
That's interesting. So I guess if Snell just so happened to be stumbling in a place that we were throwing and we told him to have a front leg like Darvish, which, in my perspective, I think it's a little too distal for them to kind of even cue anyways, as far as going from the midline of the body. But if we tried to get him to do that, that would be going against his motor preference, correct?
Oh, Matt, you need help me on that one.
Yeah, he was just saying if we try to get him to have the same kind of front
Oh,
front leg as Darvish, like yes, that would be completely out of profile, and
yeah,
he
it's
would
gonna
not
hurt
like it.
him. Yeah, no, it's gonna hurt him. He's
Yeah.
gonna be hurt. Like there's no other doubt. He's gonna lose his control. He's gonna be less balanced. Everything is starting from a balance point. So even vision is not really important. You have to be balanced. If you're not balanced, you don't have a good perception. If you don't have a good perception, you cannot analyze well. If you don't analyze well, you cannot do the proper move. So everything is starting from a really balance point. And I can see like well, Darvish should move a little bit more because she's
Sure. You
quite.
want to keep going?
Yeah, no, it's just because the front foot landing is probably the most critical part when the difference between. Plus Darvish looks. I will say looks because I don't. Okay, it's very difficult for me sometimes to watch pictures. That's why I don't like to just give my. I will say my guess on observation because it's. I mean, the model is. They are so trained in such way that sometimes I think they're losing their own motor preferences. Like I know motor preference is gonna take over at one point, but it's too much standardized. But you can see here the difference, of course, of flexion of front leg. You can see that there's a big difference between those two front leg.
Okay.
I will probably probably half a second before we will have probably a different back foot too. And also you can see that the upper body is not leaned the same way. There's one Darvish is very vertical when Snail is more backward. So all these different things, also probably the ball, the way they hold the ball is probably different. I cannot see Darvish; it's hidden by the cap, but it's probably different too. So all these different things make sure that one is terrestrial, one the other one is aerial. So if you start to ask, for example, Snell to do squat, to do concentric workout, to have more flexion in his leg, maybe I would say it's probably vertical too, because at his release point, his arm is very high. So if he has a vertical organization in his body and you're trying to make a larger stride, you're going to kill him. That's exactly what's going to happen. That after 3, 4, maybe 6 months, it's going to be a mess for him. Like, he will not be able to pitch anymore. And on the opposite side, if you start to ask Darvish to do plyometrics and to start to generate more vertical move, that will not work. So by knowing motor preferences, you're sure that you're going to work how the body wants to work. So you're not trying to compensate weakness. You're building on strength, which is probably very different.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I'm quite sure, yeah, Darvish looks very dissociated for me, but I will say that probably I think Snell is not. I'm not really sure he's dissociated. So, but you can see the different. Okay, just keep going on Snell. Stop, and you can see how vertical is right arm compared to Darvish. So you have probably Darvish. I will say it's probably horizontal more than vertical, but Snell is very vertical. So
Yeah.
that's a body organization. So that's why we have side arm. That's why we have, because arms moves is a mix of 3 or 4 different motor preferences. Some are taking over the others. But Snell has a very high release point. I don't know. I didn't look at which motor shoulder he had, but you can see, like, even at the release point, watch at the legs, how different they are. See the front leg, Darvish is still in flexion.
Yeah, he's still in flexion here.
Yeah, so when Snell is already in extension because he's an aerial and he's going to do an extension earlier compared to Darvish. The thing, it doesn't mean I really want people to understand, it doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's wrong or false. It's just different, but they're going to reach the same level of performance. So just moving differently, that's it. But the result's going to be the same.
Sure.
And if you respect that, very specific motor profile, players, I mean, studies in France, in Europe about injuries are crazy. Like elite league team, soccer team in France, so like the best division of soccer in France, worked for about 1.5 years now with motor preferences. Injury ratio decreased from 70%.
7-0.
7-0. Do you imagine this in MLB?
Be nice.
The biggest thing that he taught me was, understand information's great with data on that, but knowing how your body wants to produce the move is a game changer. And when you have the ability to know how your body wants to produce the move, that's everything that any athlete has ever wanted, and that information. So that was something that probably stuck with me the most, was having the accountability and knowing how you want to produce the move. Then you can use the drills, the cues, the feels to constrain them in their motor preferences, or maybe out of the bad training that they had, but understanding how their body wants to produce the move under stress and energy and all that was crucial for me.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that leads into another question for me. How do you assess that? Or do you give them a